Hey everybody, welcome. This is Mark Mascola. This is Powerless to Powerful, the #1 positive side of addiction podcast for men. I want to welcome you, man. I got a lot of good stuff going on. We have got a great topic for today's edition, and we had just had the response we've been getting back on our podcast. It's just over the top. There are just hundreds and hundreds of downloads every week, and hopefully my goal here, my mission here is to help raise the percentages of men who realize the rewards of long-term recovery. Men who trade being powerless over their addiction for it being powerless over them and their families. I'm hoping this is about a whole bunch of guys wanting to reach and stretch and looking to kind of smooth out the bumps in their recovery, and that they're not really struggling, but I know you are. Addiction, I say it all the time, addiction is struggle enough. Let's not struggle with our recovery. And that's one of the reasons, I got started on this journey back in 1999, and I just, very early on, I knew that God had kind of put me on a path to, I didn't struggle much with my recovery. And one of the reasons is because of the topic that I'm going to talk about today. I knew very early on that God was calling me to serve other men and help them learn what I learned. Early on, I went to a lot of meetings, had a sponsor, did the whole deal. But I wanted more than I was getting from him and them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a second as well. I was looking for some information. I didn't want to just quit my addiction. I learned very early on that this wasn't about just quitting an addiction. For me, it was about a lifestyle change. It was about me learning to become the man that God put me on this earth to be. I realized that I couldn't do that using drugs and alcohol. And the bottom line is I really wasn't doing that anyway. And so what I help guys do, whether they're part of our mastermind group or they go through one of our, do-it-yourself coaching, one of our home study coaching programs, or whether, they connect with us on one of the mentorship and coaching programs where we do one-on-one and group coaching. I help guys understand that this is about creating a lifestyle where your negative addictions just don't have any room to fit anymore. I knew for me, being the dad that I wanted to be and the husband that I wanted to be and the businessman that I wanted to be, I had to trade being powerless over my addiction for it being powerless over me. And so how did I do that? I'm gonna lay it out here for you. The topic of today's edition is the 4 steps to build a positive, powerful belief system in your recovery. And I'll go ahead and throw out my disclaimers. I'm not a doctor. Don't take anything that I say, don't construe it as medical advice. It's not. I am a certified health coach. I'm an expert in positive psychology. I've been on the positive side of my addiction for over 22 years now. And the woman in my life who helps me create all that we do here, she's been on this journey for over 21 years. So when you listen to us, listen to me, you get both of us. You're getting over 40 years of combined long-term recovery experience. And I'm not talking about brief. I'm not talking about intermittent. We didn't relapse. We've got a couple of decades, and we love to share our experience, but we love to share our expertise as well. I mean, we have decided to do more, to become more, to have more, to serve more. And, we are, like I said, we're experts at positive psychology, certified health coaches. We understand human performance, and that's the journey that we're on. And we want to help you become the best and most powerful version of yourself in your recovery and in your life because of your recovery. Not only for you, but for your family, your community, and the world that we live in. So the disclaimer is, don't take any of this as medical advice. And number 2, If I say something that offends you, just get over it. My goal here is to help you raise your awareness to a different possibility, and it is all based on the topic today. And again, the topic, the 4 steps to build a positive, powerful belief system in your recovery, because I know that this is the foundation of success in everything as it relates to your recovery. So let me begin with a question. What do you believe about your recovery? Do you believe you can do it? Do you believe you can't do it? Do you believe it's going to be hard? Do you believe relapse is part of recovery? Because let me go ahead and give you the definition of the word beliefs. Definition, and if you've listened to any of the editions, any of my previous 5 or 6 editions of this podcast, I'm on a real roll with this belief thing for one simple reason, because I know it's the foundation of success in everything. Definition of the word beliefs is an acceptance that something exists or is true. And I'm going to add whether I do or not, or whether I do always, whether it is or not. Again, the definition of beliefs, an acceptance that something exists or is true, and I'm going to add whether it is or not. I didn't believe for a second that I couldn't do this. I had to do it. It was life or death for me. I had to create a positive, powerful belief system because I didn't give myself another chance. I valued my life more than I wanted to die. So I hope I bore you with this next story. I uploaded a video today to YouTube, and the video was called Beliefs. I uploaded it to YouTube, and you can find our YouTube channel at Powerless to Powerful, Mark Mascola. You can find that at Powerless to Powerful, and I also loaded it in the membership area of the men's mastermind group, and I'll talk about it again here in just a minute. But part of the video talked about the story of the elephant. In my email to update all of the guys who are part of our mastermind group, that I had posted a new recovery in a new video in the membership area. I said, what the hell does an elephant have to do with successful recovery? So if you've listened to this, if you've heard this, I know you won't get bored with it, because it's the foundation of everything, this concept of beliefs. So I don't think it's up for debate. The elephant is the most powerful land animal on earth, right? An adult elephant, male elephant, can weigh up to 13,000 pounds, carry 18,000 pounds. I mean, think about that. It's like carrying over 100 grown men. You know, a grown elephant can basically destroy just about anything it wants to, right? I mean, you've seen the videos. So how do they train an elephant? And I'm going to give you the short version of this. They chain that elephant's leg to a log or a post at a very young age, and over time that elephant becomes conditioned to the fact that it's a captive. It believes that it's stuck. So let me ask you a question. That elephant believes he's powerless. Now, this is an animal that's powerful enough to carry 100 grown men, 18,000 pounds. Is that elephant really powerless? Or does he just believe he's powerless? Someone, through training that elephant, helped him create a belief system that he was a captive, that he was powerless. And he's adopted that as his truth. And I'm going to add whether it is or not. So when we all have a belief system in our addiction, and we have a belief system in our recovery. You know, when I made it to treatment on July 29th, 1999, I believed I was a failure. My marriage was falling apart. My business had crumbled. My health was failing. I mean, from a former college athlete to sitting there in a rocking chair trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I believed I was a failure. I accepted that as my truth. My journey on the positive side of my addiction has helped me change my belief system. I don't adopt that as my truth. I don't accept that as my truth anymore. So today we're going to talk about the 4 steps to build a positive, powerful belief system in your recovery. And here they go. Step number 1. Understand that your beliefs will follow your decision. Understand your beliefs will follow your decision. The definition of the word decision is to cut off all other options. The reason so many men struggle with their recovery is they failed to make a decision. They failed to cut off all other options. They hope against hope that there's some glimmer that they can use successfully, or they can go back to the life that they lived that I can promise you is the source of their addiction, and just figure out how to muddle through it clean and sober. So let me ask you, what decision have you made about your recovery? Have you cut off all other options as it relates to your addiction? Because let me tell you, when you make a decision, God seems to put you on the path. God seems to hand you a key to doors that seem closed. God seems to put the right people, the right opportunity, the right information, the right videos, the right podcasts, the right people, the right mentor, the right coach, the right sponsor, the right meeting, the right message. God seems to put that stuff in front of us after we've made a decision. But let me tell you, my friend, God is waiting on you to make the decision. He's not going first. So your beliefs will always follow your decision. Is step number 1. Step number 2. I did a podcast edition several editions ago about the affirmation of the 3 selves: self-worth, self-confidence, and self-image. The second step is to accept your worthiness. You know, in our addiction, we all make bad choices, right? We all do things that, when we work ourselves through those steps, and we have to make a list of the people that we've harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. And our addiction creates what we feel is a low self-worth. But let me tell you, most men, they mistake their worth for their image. The decisions that you've made, the choices that you've made, is all about a negative self-image. Your worthiness was given to you at birth by God. The word grace is the unmerited favor of God. It means you didn't have to do anything for Him to give it to you other than learn to accept it. You were brought into this world worthy. That's God's choice, not yours. So step number 2 is to accept your worthiness. Number 1, your beliefs will follow your decision. Number 2, accept your worthiness. Number 3, step number 3, understand that powerful, unshakable beliefs are always backed by self-confidence. You heard me talk about accepting your worthiness. Number 2, how do we build self-confidence? And how do we become confident enough when we understand that we were born in the image and the likeness of a powerful God? We need to work on becoming the best and most powerful version of ourselves in our recovery, in our life because of our recovery. Self-confidence is not built by sitting on the couch. Self-confidence is about courageous actions. Courageous meaning you're going to do them regardless of whether you want to or not, whether you feel like it or not. When I talk about recovery, I talk about sustained physical abstinence. Not intermittent, not brief, not every now and then, not every once in a while, not when you feel like it. Those continued actions, those courageous actions. Successful recovery is not for men who need it or want it. There's plenty of men in that category. It's for men who get off their ass and do it. Now, are you always going to take the right actions? Probably not. But when I talk about step number 4, you'll understand why step 3 and step 4 are back to back. Number 3 is powerful, unshakable beliefs are always backed by self-confidence. Self-confidence is the result of courageous actions. So how do you take better actions and make less mistakes? That's where step number 4 comes in. Again, the 4 steps to build a positive, powerful belief system in your recovery. Number 1, your beliefs will follow your decision. Number 2, accept your worthiness. Step number 3, powerful, unshakable beliefs are always backed by self-confidence. And step number 4, surround yourself with believers. Now, when you hear the word believers, am I talking about Christ followers? Well, yeah. Am I talking about people who believe in God? Absolutely. But what I'm talking about is surround yourself with a group of men who will help you believe that you can because they did. They went from powerless to powerful. They traded being powerless over their addiction for it being powerless over them. And just being around them can help you believe that you can by their example. Are you getting your advice from men who are still struggling? Now, let me not, if you listen to me on a regular basis, you're going to understand I don't sugarcoat a lot of stuff. You better quit getting advice and guidance from men who are struggling. The game is to get advice and guidance from men who are not struggling. The best service that I can provide a man who is sick and suffering from an addiction is to be a man who is no longer sick and suffering. I cannot give away what I do not have. You better be taking your guidance from a man or a group of men who are not struggling, number 1, with their addiction and not struggling in their recovery. You know, anybody can sit around and tell you to go to a meeting and call your sponsor, right? That same old pat answer, and it's great. I mean, it's great advice, but I needed more and I wanted more. You know, I did that stuff. My sponsor told me to go to a meeting. At the meeting, they told me to call my sponsor. I wanted more than I was getting from him and them. Was him and them part of the journey? Absolutely. But I wanted more. I decided to hang around and seek out guidance from men who were willing to help me create the life that I wanted, not just the ones who could repeat what they heard at a meeting and tell me to call my sponsor and go to a meeting. There's a couple of words there's a couple of phrases here that I'm going to use when I ask this question. The two phrases are learned helplessness and learned optimism. Your beliefs should always, you should take your guidance from somebody who has a belief system of hope, optimism, and future-mindedness, not somebody who repeats all of the sayings like sometimes you hear at a meeting. Some of that stuff is learned helplessness. Well, I'm just an addict. Got all these problems. I don't have any expectations. I don't expect anything from anybody. I can't ever make right decisions. I got this disease. And the biggest one of all. And I'll say this, and I know I offend some men when I say it, but I'm willing to say the one thing that most men in recovery want to say but don't. It's not in my nature to be powerless. And I'm going to tell you, it's not in yours either. To sit around and say I am powerless is learned helplessness. To say I traded being powerless over my addiction for it being powerless over me, and that I'm going to choose to be powerful in the 8 key areas that every man must master, that first step says powerless over my addiction. It doesn't say powerless over my life. In the 8 key areas, it doesn't say powerless over my personal growth. Doesn't say powerless over my relationships. Doesn't say powerless over my finances, my physical wellness, my mental clarity. Doesn't say powerless over my nutrition. That first step doesn't say powerless over my recreation. And it definitely does not say powerless over my spiritual connection and my life's purpose. My purpose for my recovery and my purpose for my life because of my recovery. Those are the 8 key areas. And when I talk about hanging out with believers, I'm talking about those who understand the principle of learned optimism. Because the men who repeat those things at meetings, they're not doing it for the wrong reason. They just think that that's what it's about. When I talk about being an expert in positive psychology helps us discover our strengths and our core values and what's unique with us and how to use those things to be the best and most powerful version of us. Positive psychology, and it's the reason I've been an expert in studying and relaying this information, learning and teaching this information for a couple of decades now, is all about discovering what's right with me, not what's wrong with me. I don't sit around and say, oh, I'm just this addict. I say, man, I'm addicted to some really cool things in my life today. I'm addicted to a relationship with a woman I love who loves me. I'm addicted to being a dad. I'm addicted to doing podcasts like this and creating resources and connecting with men, help them learn the principle of learned optimism in their recovery instead of the learned helplessness that so many men misconstrue as what recovery is all about. When I talk about having a belief system that gives your past permission to hold your future hostage, we all have a belief system in our addiction, and we all have a belief system that we create in our recovery. We cannot have a recovery belief system that is based on the concept of learned helplessness. Again, I'm willing to say what most men want to say and don't. It's not in my nature to be powerless, and it's not in yours either. Why? Going back to that self-image thing I talked about. I was born in the image and the likeness of a powerful God, and so were you. Accept that as your worthiness. Courageously get yourself into action and build your positive, powerful self-image in the likeness of our Creator. Again, the best level of service that you can be is to be a guy that lives this stuff. Not a guy that sits around and complains about it. Again, hopefully you're addicted to listening to me because I don't sugarcoat a lot of stuff. I'm willing to say the things that most men won't say. There was a lot more to this than just don't use and go to a meeting. There was a lot more to it than just work the steps. That's why I created our Power 12 program is the 12 steps to awakening your masculine soul. We've got some guys that are finishing up. They're on the 12th step right now, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. The spiritual awakening is the result of all of the steps. Are you getting your guidance from somebody who's trying to preach a spiritual awakening who hadn't even worked all 12 of the steps? I cannot give away what I don't have. If you're taking your guidance from a guy who's preaching spiritual awakening and he hasn't gone through all 12 of the steps and understood what that principle-based way of living means, you're leaving a whole lot on the table. So again, the 4 steps to build a positive, powerful belief system in your recovery. Number 1, your beliefs will follow your decision. Number 2, you need to accept your worthiness, your gift from God that was given to you at birth. Number 3, you need to understand that a powerful, unshakable belief system is backed by self-confidence. And number 4, you need to surround yourself with believers. You want to be around some men who are powerful husbands, fathers, and businessmen, powerful men in the community who are making a real difference. Come join us at our mastermind group. You find out more information at www.powerless2powerful.com. Click on it. Find out about the 2.0 mastermind group. I mean, this is this is transformational stuff. You want to elevate your recovery to the next level? You know, I say all the time, the majority of men will never elevate their recovery past the point of defining themselves by their problems. Why? Because they're conditioned to learned helplessness that they get from most men in recovery. They don't surround themselves with positive, powerful men who help them understand the principle of learned optimism. So again, www.powerless2powerful.com. Also, during the rest of September here, we're halfway there. This is September 15th. Ashley and I made a decision last night. We are going to do a free 7-day recovery mentorship coaching program. If you want to get our help on strengthening your recovery, supercharging your life because of your recovery, you can come connect with us for 7 days. And I'm going to tell you, we can't, obviously, we want to include as many men as we can. This is only for men who are struggling with their recovery. I can't help you if you're struggling with your addiction. You got to make a decision about that first. But again, go to www.powerless2powerful.com. Click on the button about the 7-day mentoring and coaching program. You'll get to hang out with us for 7 days, and we'll give you all kinds of resources, help you create a more powerful belief system in your recovery and in your life because of your recovery. So again, you can find out all of that information at www.powerless2powerful.com. Go there, be part of the mastermind group. And sign up for your 7 days of free mentoring. So that is the end of this podcast edition. This was the 4 steps to build a positive, powerful belief system in your recovery. Again, I'll go over them real quick. Number 1, your beliefs will follow your decision. Number 2, accept your worthiness. Number 3, a powerful, unshakable beliefs are always backed by self-confidence. And number 4, you need to surround yourself with believers. This is Mark Mascola signing off from Powerless to Powerful, the #1 positive side of addiction podcast for men. I am telling you, go out and have a great day wherever you are in the world. You absolutely deserve it. Bye for now.